Hello and welcome to the Gaggle Whopper Challenge. And if this is our Destroy Media Narratives, I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, we've talked a lot about Trump's strange evolution during the past few months, whereby the supposed peace president, the supposed non-interventionist, the supposed anti-war, anti-color revolution, anti-interventionist president is launching all kinds of new wars. We had the war that he launched alongside Israel against Iran in June. Now we have the overt threats to attack Venezuela, and of course they're shooting boats out of the water in the Caribbean. And
Well, we had the Yemen. I
yeah,
mean,
exactly. We had the attack on the Houthis in Yemen, and then we have his apparent reversal of his policy on Ukraine, where his policy had been to bring this thing to an end as soon as possible, but instead he's now um, escalating American involvement and embarking on the Biden policy with the increased sanctions. But everything really came to a head with this bizarre interview that he gave the other day to Laura Ingraham, um, where he started talking about, advocating for policies that were clearly inimical to everything that MAGA, America First, stands for. He's talking obviously now here about this 50-year mortgages, which is absolutely insane idea.
that's just bonkers.
Yeah, and has
Bonkers.
gone down like a rock among his supporters. Um, but now he's advocating for an expansion of the H-1B program. Now he's always talked a little bit about that, but before, while he sort of tentatively said, "Yeah, no, that's okay. We need to reform it and so on." Now he wants to actually expand it, and most
Well, and Laura Ingraham, so we have good people here, and he said, no, we don't.
well, that's it exactly. Exactly, that was a bizarre thing. She said, "Well, what do we need this? Well, we have talented people here. What do we need to import people, particularly on this H-1B program, which doesn't bring in talented people? There are programs that do bring in exceptional talents, but not the H-1B. H-1B is just a scam of to bring in cheap labor. I mean, there's nothing there about exceptional talents." Um, and then he talked about the having Chinese students in American universities, which is also very strange because Laura Ingraham kind of raised the issue of we need 600,000 students from China. Oh, well, we need them because if we don't, they're bringing in lots of money. Trump says, and says, so you mean our university system is now dependent on money from China? Is that, oh, well, all these universities, like all these black universities, would collapse because
Yeah, I can imagine how many Chinese want to go to Howard University.
yeah, exactly. No, they want to go to, they want to, so, I mean, they're bringing in money to the prestigious universities, the Harvards and Stanford, they're the ones with the big scientific and engineering laboratories. And of course, all Chinese students are obligated, absolutely obligated when they go anywhere to obligated to report to the Chinese government. They're obligated, whatever information the Chinese government wants from these students, they are obligated to report to the Chinese government. So essentially spying,
Well, it's a civic
anything
response.
they find in these Stanford laboratories, they are obligated to report to the Chinese government.
And through their eyes, that's a civic duty.
Right, exactly. So let's just take a look a little bit of this.
Oh, you want to actually look at some?
Yes,
Okay.
I do. Yeah, I wanted to give set up the interview, but now we can actually see the real thing in light. Um,
Costs are still out of reach. And another thing that your administration is trying to tackle, many Americans, the average age of first-time home buyers are now up to age 40, which is sad country you and I grew up in.
Inherited that. Look, you have to understand.
Right, but let me get to the question, though, because your housing director has proposed something that has enraged your MAGA friends, which is this 50-year mortgage idea. So a significant MAGA backlash, calling it a giveaway to the banks and simply prolonging the time it would take for Americans to own a home outright. Is that really a good idea?
It's not even a big deal. I mean, you go from 40 to 50 years, and what it
30
means
to
is you
50.
pay something less from 30 that some people had a 40, and then
George, can you pause it for a second, please?
all it means is you pay less per month.
This is coming from a real estate mogul.
Yep. Right.
Okay. I mean, that's what's more astounding to me than anything else.
Right.
The idea is loopy, but
It's
he knows about real estate.
He knows, right, but it's a looping idea because, of course, 50 years. I mean, who can guarantee there's going to be alive in 50 years' time when he takes out a loan?
And the banks will own all.
Right,
own
exactly. So the
everything.
moment, if a person dies, that's it. Now the other thing is, of course, in the end, you end up paying a lot more because yes, the interest rate is lower, but it's over a more extended period of time, so you end up paying more to the bank.
You pay it over a longer period of time. It's not like a big factor. It might help a little bit. But the problem was that Biden did this. He increased the interest rates, and I have a lousy Fed person who's going to be gone in a few months.
Biden didn't increase interest rates.
Jerome Powell, we call him too late. He was too late in everything, except when it came to before the so-called Democrat election, which didn't work. But we're going to get interest rates down. But even with interest rates up, the economy is the strongest it's ever been. You asked me, just to go back to the beginning of your question, you talked about prices. We're down on energy. We're down on interest rate. Interest rates are down despite the Fed. Now, if we had a normal person at the Fed would have really low interest rates, and we will soon have that. We'll have somebody that's going to.
Are people saying they're anxious about the economy? Why are they saying that?
I don't know that they are saying. I think polls are fake. We have the greatest economy we've ever had. We have.
This is, of course, all going down disastrously because this is, just a week after these very poor election showing. Throughout, and clearly people were very, very troubled by the economy. And of course, he is exactly saying the way Biden was saying, oh, well, Bidenomics is really working. And of course, when no one said, well, hey, it isn't working. And then you had people like Paul Krugman who said, yeah, it's really working. Yeah, it's very good. I think people are just so stupid that they don't really realize how much better off they are than they were before. So it's always people are just stupid. That's the only way you can explain it.
And we really don't know. I suppose it is knowable at some point. George is referencing the mini cycle that there was a mini cycle of elections in the United States, in which the GOP performed disastrously. What I would like to know, and it's my suspicion, is that a lot of Trump voters just didn't vote. They just,
I'm sure that's right.
They just didn't go.
Right. No.
And I think that they're just saying, we're done. We're done.
Right. Yeah. No, that's exactly right. That's absolutely right.
We will have over $20 trillion come into our economy, and it's largely because of my election, but it's also largely because of tariffs. Even the tariff thing, it's such a disgrace. I'm watching them saying, well, no money would have to be paid back because it's not that much. It's trillions and trillions of dollars would have to be paid back.
If the Supreme Court rules against
it would be a disaster for our country. Now, will I do something? I'll figure something out because I do. That's what I do in life. I figure things out. But it's so. President Xi was willing to do the rare earth thing. That's magnets.
Now, the thing about we don't know how the Supreme Court will rule, but give through the oral arguments, it didn't look as if Trump's got the 5 votes that he's going to need.
It went up like a lead balloon.
Right, okay. Exactly. So we know, if you crunch the numbers, that the 3 liberal justices, they're obviously going to vote against Trump. So that means that leaves 6 others. Trump has to get 5 of those 6. That's going to be awfully difficult, given the tone of the questions that those 6 justices were asking, particularly Gorsuch and Roberts. It's going to be hard. And what's her name? Amy Coney Barrett. Yeah.
Amy.
So they were the tenor of the questions. So, but he kind of messed this up himself by being so haphazard with his tariffs. I mean, if he'd just been much more focused in what he wanted to do, hey, I want to use them strategically to bring back industry to the United States. Instead, he started punishing India, punishing Brazil.
Exactly. And I think George and I, in talking about it, have been far more nuanced, if I can say that about us, than most people. I'm not against tariffs,
No,
but
me
I'm
neither.
I'm
No,
very much for tariffs the way George described,
right,
strategically,
right.
and to protect something in the United States. Okay. In Ontario, there was an ad about Trump, and then he goes out of his way, 10% more on you.
Right.
That's
That's exactly
that is not thinking strategically. That's thinking like a child.
exactly, and that opens him up to the line of argument, which was exercised at the courts, which is, well, then that's within the jurisdiction of Congress. That's Congress. It's, if that's what you're going to do, you're going to tax whatever India because of that. Then that should be up to Congress to do that. If you want to use emergency powers, then you have to show that there's an emergency. And yes, infant industries and bringing manufacturing industries. Yeah, you can say that's an emergency. Yeah, we've lost
Sure.
out. But this, how is punishing Brazil over the treatment of Bolsonaro? How is that a kind of a national emergency? Yeah.
It's absurd, and also Trump is coming out now that it's all about the money. Well, that's not the case that they made in the Supreme
No,
Court.
no, that's
Okay,
exactly right.
so I mean he's contradicting his own government's
No,
case.
that's absolutely right.
Okay?
Because the more he talks about all the revenue we've raised, then the more the justices say, well, revenue is not supposed to be what Congress is. The Constitution is quite clear on what it is that Congress is supposed to do. If it's about raising revenue, then it's Congress's responsibility to raise revenue. Um, anyway.
Nobody knows what a magnet is. If you don't have a magnet, you don't make a car. You don't make a computer. You don't make televisions and radios and all the other things. You don't make anything. It's a 30-year effort to monopolize a very important thing. Now, within 2 years, we'll have magnets, all the magnets we want, but we don't. Because of tariffs, I called. I said, listen, here's the story. You're going to play the magnet. I'm going to play the tariff on you. And for national security purposes, I raised the tariff by 100% over and above what they were paying, which was 55. So it was at 155%. Within 10 minutes, I got a call. We'd like to meet. And we settled it out. And we made a wonderful deal, great deal for our country. But we made a great deal. We would have had a closed country. We would have had a depression. The whole world would have had a depression.
Show us that we're too dependent on China. It's not just on rare earths, sir. We're dependent on them for still pharmaceuticals, still key industrial components. The Journal did a huge piece, and they're fairly pro-China, but
Yeah.
but a very
It's all coming
extensive
back,
piece.
Laura, because of
There's no
tariffs.
evidence any of it's coming back.
Well,
I mean,
he has to. Well, I think the point is that this rare earths. I mean, it's ridiculous to have China monopolizing rare earths. I mean, it's just basically, no one else wanted to do it. The Chinese moved in,
yeah.
and mined the rare earths.
And it's really, I mean, how many boulders does it take to get rare earths that can fit in your hand? I mean, they did literally the heavy
right.
lifting.
That's right. But the consequence of that is that the United States is going to get into it. Others are going to do it. I mean, they're not going to do it. But yeah, I mean, it's all it just happened. So well, it's very dirty. It's a very it does very damaging to the environment. So no one wanted to do it. It's like not in my backyard. And the Chinese moved in, and they've got a near global monopoly. But that can't last. No, nothing like that lasts forever.
Them tariffs of 100% and 150% for pharmaceuticals. What's happening? The pharmaceutical companies are all back here building plants right now. That's part of the $20 trillion of money that's coming because of tariffs. And we're not dependent on China. We're dependent on having a smart president. If we have a smart president, we're going to have no trouble. If we have a guy like we had last time, who was such an embarrassment, if we have stupid presidents, whether you have tariffs or don't have tariffs, it doesn't matter.
Can you stop it for a second? I think one of Laura Ingram's producers were doing like this.
Right. Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah.
You see her eyes?
It's very noticeable. She's kind of looking away. Yeah. Gotta.
If I didn't have the power of the tariffs right now, we would have a country that wouldn't be making cars, wouldn't be making anything.
A new detailed report on CNN, of all places, documents China's expansion of 60% of its missile facilities. It's staggering, bigger than anyone had ever thought, more robust growth. And over the weekend, the new Japanese prime minister, who I know.
So I just want to move a little further on.
Took big advantage. I mean, we built, because
we built their military.
We built their military. We built their whole thing. The whole thing was, and by the way, if you remember, in my first term, I took in hundreds of billions of tariffs. I put tariffs on China very early. Then when we got hit with COVID, we fought that. We did a very good job, but that was COVID.
We just want to move on a little bit.
But look, I get along great with President Xi. I get along great with China. But the only way you're going to get along well with China is you have to deal from a position of strength. We have tremendous strength because of tariffs. We have tremendous strength because of what I've done. I've rebuilt our military, and they have a lot of missiles, but we have a lot of missiles too. And they don't want to mess around with us, I can tell you that.
A lot of MAGA folks are not thrilled about this idea of hundreds of thousands of foreign students in the United States. We have about 350,000 Chinese. One point during COVID, you were going to, push to, get them out, but that was pulled back. You've said as many as 600,000 Chinese students could come to the United States. Why, sir, is that a pro-MAGA position when so many American kids want to go to school and there are places not for them, and these universities are getting rich off Chinese money?
Sure. Never said about China, but we do have a lot of people coming in from China. We always have China and other countries. We also have a
Where's this coming from?
Of colleges and universities. And if we were to cut that in half, which perhaps makes some people happy, you would have half the colleges in the United States go out of business.
So what?
So what?
I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, so what?
For the United States?
Yeah, but you would have, as you know, historically, black colleges and universities would all be out of business. You would have a system of colleges.
We need Chinese students to keep Howard open.
Yeah, exactly. These Chinese students. Yeah, we go to
And
Howard.
they're not going to go there. Okay. And these are going to be people with money in their pocket, maybe state funded even. Smart people, no doubt. Okay. And, infiltrate the university system.
Of course. But that's the thing. I mean, it's essentially what they do is because they're bringing in a lot of money. The universities say, yeah, fantastic. Come on in.
So we can increase tuition even more.
We can increase tuition even more. But it also means that the number of places that are available for American students is diminished. I mean, that's the consequence. I mean, if about half of your graduate student positions are taken up by foreign students, then, well, that's half gone. It's going to be that much more difficult for American students for those places. This has been obvious. If there's anything that make MAGA America first, it's precisely that there'll be places available for American students in America's elite universities. And here he is saying the opposite. Oh, well, we need these people because they're bringing in money to Harvard.
Yeah. I saw Harvard on a bread line last week, George.
Right. Yeah.
All of these things, these endowments, I mean, they're disgraceful, okay? Yep. And they still get subsidies from the federal government.
Yes, of course they do.
Billions and billions of dollars, and they're still getting welfare.
Huge subsidies. I mean, first of all, even the whole federal student loan program is a subsidy for universities. Basically, the universities aren't on the hook. It's the government that's on the hook, so they can just keep raising fees because they know it's the government that's going to have to pay these fees. So it's an incentive for them just to raise fees, and they get money from all kinds of government agencies. The Pentagon primarily, but of course the National Institutes of Health. The National Science Foundation. I mean, you just name it. They're getting so much money from governments and said, oh, yeah, but we also got to get money from the Chinese government, make them really rich. These are very, very wealthy institutions.
Well, to be president of Harvard, you have a basically live in a mansion, okay, and I mean it's palatial.
It
It's
is,
these places
yeah.
are palatial.
Those salaries, those are top corporate CEO salaries. It's not like, oh well, I'm just an education person.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
live on a kind of very limited salary. No, those are big corporate CEO salaries.
So we're the teams. No, no chance. But I think it's good to have. I actually think it's good to have outside countries. Look, I want to be able to get along with the world.
They're not the French. They're the Chinese. They spy on us. They steal our intellectual
Th-
property.
th- th- This has got to be the most embarrassing part.
You think the French are better? So he says, yeah. You think the French are but,
I'm not so sure. We've had a lot of problems with the French, where we get taxed very unfairly on our technology, where they put 25% taxes on American products. Look, assuming everyone treats us badly, because
I'm sorry, George, can you stop it again? He's president of the United States. Stop the grievance thing. Stop it.
but the problem
Lead,
here,
lead. Okay, but stop griping.
Right, but the problem here, and this is why this was such a catastrophic interview, and it's gone absolutely viral through particularly through the MAGA space, is that you
Exactly.
seem to have abandoned entirely what MAGA was supposed to be about. Everyone's, because later on he talks about the H-1B, that he wants to expand that. So you got H-1B, you want to bring in Chinese students into American universities. So all these, these great colleges, they're going to be even more unavailable to Americans. And of course, then he talks about 50-year mortgages. This on top of all the grievances going in to that interview, which is, why are you prioritizing Israel? Where does that come from? Yeah, I thought this was supposed to be MAGA. This was to make America great again. It's not about making Israel great again. So that was already an issue. And that's that issue with Iran. The Iran thing is still rankling within MAGA, which is,
and
why did the United States attack Iran?
And your favorite topic, George, and I'm saying this obviously with sarcasm, is the Epstein thing. Now, that's not a story George and I have really paid attention to, and we won't. Okay,
Right.
so, but that is a grievance a lot of people had, and Speaker Johnson isn't sitting an elected congresswoman for the very reason they can't have a vote on it, or they would lose the vote on it. Okay, now everyone can have their opinion on the whole Epstein thing, okay? But it has political consequences for many people because they ran on it.
Yeah, they absolutely ran on it, and so all of this, if everything else was going well, and you thought, okay, you can overlook it, but when they're not going well, and he just makes this whole very dismissive, these are fake polls. Well, you had an election, that's not fake. People actually voted, and the
Well, and Donald Trump
result was actually even worse for the Republicans than the polls had predicted. Yeah, you go. You were going to say.
Well, I'm just going to say when there's a poll that he likes, he says I'm up in the polls. I mean, you can't have both. Come on.
Right.
And no sitting president, you did Bidenomics. People are dissatisfied. Are they dissatisfied about seed oil? Okay, I mean that doesn't run the economy, but bread and butter,
Right.
the stuff. People. You can't tell people, oh, you're wrong. That's one issue you just can't.
No,
you can't fiddle with. You can't fiddle with it.
No, you can't. And so these things, H-1B, the universities, and make Israel great again, and then clearly you're planning on Venezuela. I mean, all the stories, the USS Gerald Ford, it's now arrived. It's in the Caribbean. So everyone said, "What is this? It? Are we going to start attacking Venezuela?" None of that has anything to do with MAGA. And then on top of that, Trump does this thing about building a new ballroom. Now, I don't care about all that. Oh, this historically, I mean, they're always redoing the White House. It's not just that.
Harry Truman did a major
Exactly.
remodeling of the White House,
Exactly.
everyone.
However, people look and say, well, this is, you're preoccupying yourself with building, a ballroom in the White House. And the public knows we're not actually going to be invited there. It's not like, we're going to be there enjoying having a ball at some point. So that's not good. And then, of course, he has all these big, entertainment events in Mar-a-Lago. None of that comes across well. He was supposed to be the sort of the populist billionaire. If you're a populist billionaire, then you have to act like a populist billionaire. He's not doing that now. He's looking like a billionaire who's kind of enjoying his billions. That is not a good look.
Yesterday, I did a recording with a very left progressive guy, hardcore, okay? And I had a hardcore MAGA guy, and then kind of a liberal. Everybody disagreed with the liberal, but the progressive and the MAGA guy were in lockstep. Okay. That's just maybe three randos. I don't know. But it was a very interesting experience, okay? Because, first of all, there are people that just fanatically hate Donald Trump, and there's plenty of them, okay?
Right.
But there are people that were fanatically on board and are just have had it.
Right.
And this was before the Ingraham interview.
Right. Yeah, it's it is quite extraordinary. I mean, so who's telling him this? Well, may well be Howard Lutnick. He's always there. He's a kind of ubiquitous presence with Trump. Every time there's any event in the Oval Office, Lutnick is there. He's obviously a White House favorite. So at some point, this administration has really gone off the rails. This is Trump 2.0 seems very much like Trump 1.0. You think, well, hey, what happened to all the big promises? So,
particularly George, his election in 2014, I call it world historic. Okay, others disagree with me, but I think it was world historic because he won all battleground states. He had a mandate as a significant. He won the popular vote. Right. Which is almost unheard of for a Republican. Yeah. Okay, what squandering it all? Yeah, it's truly shocking.
Right. Yep, squandering it all, and that's the thing. The Democrats really don't have to do anything.
Exactly.
I mean, if you're just sort of essentially pissing away your mandate, then all they have to do is just wait for their turn. Which is next November in the midterms. They take the House. It won't take much to take the House. I mean, the Republicans.
And what's the first thing they're going to do, George?
First thing you're going to do, impeachment. And when that, and they get that through, so they're going to the trial. The moment that trial fails, because they're not going to get the 67 votes in the Senate, they start the next impeachment. You could just keep doing that. I mean, that's what they did in the first term. You can have
impeach him when he leaves office. They'll impeach him when he leaves office.
That's right, exactly. Do that. So absolutely, they're preparing for all of that, and his problem here is that if he alienates his base, and of course, we didn't talk about his swipe at Marjorie Taylor Greene. One of his most loyal followers said, "Oh, she's lost her way." But Marjorie Taylor Greene's position is that, hey, why exactly are you preoccupying yourself with foreign policy? That wasn't really your
and it's not your foreign policy.
It's not your foreign policy. Why are you pursuing Israel's foreign policy objectives? And what happened to all the MAGA promises?
Why, Donald Trump? Why are you supporting Lindsey Graham?
Exactly.
And then you're denigrating Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Right, that's right.
You're throwing mud at people that in principle, generally vote with you, okay?
Exactly.
But no, you're alienating them,
That's
okay?
right. That's right.
I mean, this endorsement of Lindsey Graham, and for me, this is off the rails, just
Yeah.
off the rails.
Yeah, it is.
And your point about and this is what's degrading political life because the Democrats don't have to do anything. They don't have to reform. They don't have to have an agenda. They don't have to get their act together. I mean, that party is a complete mess.
Yep.
And you're squandering this opportunity to be. I said, and I think I told you this, all the way back when Trump on the first time said, what he has to do is he has to build a movement, okay? And MAGA came about, but it's at odds with Donald Trump. What's another interesting thing here is that the political center is collapsing, okay? Because we're going in. I hate we don't have a good political language, and where left and right don't help us anymore.
No.
But he's finding out, George,
Right.
is that MAGA is a lot more conservative than he's aware of. A lot more conservative.
Or a lot more populist. So I would say it's not
populist conservative. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
populist conservative, because I think it's not Reaganite conservative. That's the important thing, is that, when things of conservative, well, people assume it's like, that Reaganism, but Reaganism is gone. I mean, there isn't really that Reaganite conservative movement, which is, strong on foreign policy and plus, social conservatism.
And very waspy.
Yeah, exactly. That's gone. So now, particularly the foreign policy, that Reaganite foreign policy, I mean, that's just gone among his base. But even when it comes to the social conservatism, it doesn't have the resonance that it once did. I mean, it's like that thing with the abortion thing. It's just that issue has now gone. I mean, ever since Roe v. Wade went, that the importance of the issue has gone. So even social conservatism isn't so much. But the populism, which is a more equal distribution of social goods, and particularly hatred of the corporations. I mean, that whether it's the health insurance companies, whether it's all of this, of the bankers and everyone else, that's a very intense, really intense. The internet giants, and Trump is being friendly with them. They're all coming. They're ridiculous. They're coming for dinner. They're coming to dinner, I think, tonight at the Oval Office.
Yeah, but whose faces is he slapping right now?
Right.
His Truth Social post on air traffic controllers was an abomination. I just like, why are you talking this way to these people? Okay, and Donald Trump obviously inherited that. Okay, but then, as I always say, where is your leadership?
Right.
Okay. I would not want to have that job as an air traffic control, not considering the conditions they underwork, the retrograde technology they're forced to work with, and to come out again. These are working people. Okay, why don't you stick up for working people?
Right. No, that's right. What he was trying to do there is, of course, he's trying to channel his inner Reagan. But there was a little difference between what Reagan did, because in 1981, they actually went on strike.
Right.
And Reagan then came out famously with that threat that anyone who doesn't show up for work, Monday morning will be terminated, and that kind of defined the Reagan presidency. It was very early within his presidency. Boy, he's a tough guy. But that was different. They went on strike. This is about this is consequence of the government shutdown. No one's gone on strike. So why?
Well, and Doge,
threatening them?
and Doge.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. But if you Doge. Well, you don't have a job anymore, but I mean, these are people who already have jobs. So
yeah, but one of the issues, George, is a lot of support people lost their jobs and then realized, we need these people. It wasn't thought out. I mean, again, we got rid of 150,000 jobs. Everyone, cheering. But I mean, some of these things. I mean, do you want to be safe on an airplane? I mean, it's more nuanced than
right.
this.
No, I mean, it's I think it's reasonable if you're a populist to want to slash government jobs.
Yeah,
government is basically parasitical. There's a production.
I agree, but I mean, you need a functioning state,
Yeah, you do.
okay?
Yeah, absolutely. You think,
I mean, you have to be much more nuanced about this, okay? That's all I'm thinking. I would, the mission, of course, I was for it, okay? But if you're getting rid of support staff or air traffic controllers, I said, well, maybe we had to think twice about that one, okay? I mean, and again, just the kind of denigrating rhetoric thrown at these people, it just is so unnecessary. You're alienating people. You're not, no one is agreeing with you.
well, and I think,
I mean, because the left, in principle, won't agree with him, but then you're alienating people. I'm sure there are some air traffic controllers that voted for Donald Trump and say, "What did I? Is this
right.
what
No,
I?"
I think it's so. I think it's that's a, um, if you're gonna be a populist, then you need to be trashing not air traffic controllers. You want to be trashing Bill Gates. You want to be trashing
Yeah. What about all the
the,
corporate welfare?
the
All the
billionaires.
corporate
Yeah,
welfare.
corporate welfare, exactly. Corporate welfare. The people. And it is corporate welfare. The health insurance companies. I mean, they've become fat ever since Obamacare. I mean, that should be your line of attack when you go after Obamacare. Hey, this was a boondoggle for the health insurance companies. They got really rich
Really?
but through what Obama did, just by pushing everybody into their loving arms. But it didn't deliver what it was supposed to deliver, which was to lower healthcare costs. Healthcare costs have spiraled since the introduction of Obamacare, but the profits of the insurance companies has also spiraled. So that's your line of attack. But instead, you're attacking working people. That's not a good look.
Yeah, and it just flickered through my mind when he was asked about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. He quickly talked about the ballroom. I just I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big Twitter person, X person, but George, there are people in MAGA people because I'm flooded with MAGA. I don't know why, how I got there, but and I'm annoyed by it, to be honest with you. But these people are furious with him right now.
Right.
And they're even I've even come across posts today. He should resign. I mean, he's not fit for purpose.
Right.
And maybe give JD Vance a shot.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean,
Well, I don't think it's gonna
look,
happen. Okay.
the thing about the Charlie Cook thing, I mean, I would just cut him a little bit of slack on that. He is inherently incapable of being depressed. I mean, so when you ask him some question like, I think the question that was asked, like, how are you feeling? I think, well, maybe it was like, are you feeling very low or very down after the assassination of Charlie Kirk? And so, oh, not really. Look, we're doing the ballroom. I think it's like there's something within him
Mm.
to be always upbeat, to be always positive. I mean that's who he is. It's been like that all his life. So the moment you suggest, well, yeah, I'm really down in the dumps, and
The
I'm really,
power of
really
positive thinking.
depressed and sad. Exactly, it's always positive, always sort of, yeah.
Who
I'm
wrote that? Do you
already
remember
thinking about
that?
the next project.
Who wrote that book? That was ubiquitous when I was growing up.
That's a kind of Americana. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
The power of
positive
positive
thinking.
thinking.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
It's just Joe Biden said after the debate he had a bad night. But Trump didn't look tired. He didn't have a cold.
No, 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 no. That was a bad interview. I mean,
Oh,
that was
well,
a
I mean,
catastrophic interview for him.
for those that don't know, I mean, you can't get a more sweetheart interview than Laura
Laura
Ingraham.
Ingraham.
And even her eyes are like, I think she was thinking, is he actually saying these
That's
things?
right. Yeah, she
I mean,
did.
because she is a Trump, she is a Trump booster. Okay. I don't know what MAGA really thinks about her. Okay. I have a lot of distrust of these people. They're multimillionaires but they empathize with the working people and all that.
No,
I can
I think. Look,
I'm sorry, I'm not
she's
convinced.
been an apparatchik within conservatism Inc. Really ever since the Reagan era. I mean, that's she emerged there. She worked as a speechwriter for Reagan, towards the latter days of his administration, and she has been an absolute stalwart, whoever Reagan's successors were, like Bill Bennett. I think she worked for Bill Bennett. And then, that's what, and then, eventually she got this gig at Fox News. So she was a stalwart. And then when Trump emerged on the scene, she kind of embraced Trump. But fundamentally, she's just a card-carrying conservatism Inc. Follower. That's why she's still at Fox News and Tucker Carlson isn't. So but she's absolutely is ready and willing and desirous of
Carry the water.
supporting Trump, pushing Trump.
Carry the water. Yep, carry the water.
Yeah. So this was startling for her. Hey, this is MAGA. We want Chinese students coming here and taking the places of Americans because they're bringing in money.
50-year mortgages.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. The man's getting older. Okay. I don't know if you saw it, George. I mean, it kind of went viral a few hours ago. Biden went to a Italian restaurant. I mean, the guy he's a walking corpse.
Right, he's a walking corpse. Yeah, Trump isn't. So that he's
oh my
still
God.
He's still he's obviously looks healthy and vigorous. The problem I think with Trump is always that he is. Because he's not a very reflective person, he doesn't sit, thinking a great deal about things. He is influenced by whomever he last spoke to. So that's why it's interesting, though not really that astonishing, that before that meeting with Zelensky in February, which was that terrible meeting for Zelensky, he had just spoken with Bannon. And I think it was Steve Bannon that told him, hey, just kick him out of the office. I mean, what do you need him for? And that's pretty much what this was the line that Trump was going with.
The juxtaposition is that Richard Nixon was a loner. Okay.
Yes, exactly. That's the huge difference. Yeah.
And what he would do is he would be the executive office building across from the White House. He could go underground. Okay. He would sit in an office all by himself with a stack of yellow legal pads.
Right. Yeah.
And he would sit and he would think it out.
Yep,
he would
absolutely.
think things out. Okay.
That was always
and he didn't put it into a microphone. He sat there and he wrote it out in longhand. Okay. Because he was contemplative of policy and he was a wizard at it. Okay.
That's it, exactly. And Kissinger said about him, the essence of this man is solitude. That he's a very solitary person. He would listen to people, but then he would think things through himself and then come to a decision. And that's why he was always so able, really, to explain the position without any notes. He would just come before the media or come before any kind of a National Security Council meeting and explain his position, really, without any notes at all. I mean, he was just, he was so,
and also
thinking everything through.
If you looked at interviews of him, he's a very interesting interview because, he doesn't just tell stories like, when I was vice president, I met Charles de Gaulle and we had coffee together under the Eiffel Tower. No, he always would tell stories through a policy lens. He's a very interesting person to listen to. It's dry, okay, but it's extremely well thought out, okay. And now we have this interview with Donald Trump and Laura Ingraham. I mean, I don't know, George. I mean,
and we're all puzzled as to where the hell is this going and why is he doing this? And so
Well, I mean, it's essentially maybe this is overbroad, but he's abandoned MAGA.
He's abandoned that. No, that's right. That's what he is, and that's the problem. I mean, he's hired all sorts of people around him who were never MAGA. These were also corporate shills. I mean, this guy Howard Lutnick. I mean, this is a guy. He's been absolutely a pillar of American Cantor Fitzgerald. I mean, that's where.
Yeah, but I mean. Stephen Miller is in the West Wing. Okay, as an officer. I mean, what do you think these two talked about after that interview? He must have been just. Who is this guy talking? He looks like Donald Trump.
That's exactly right. And then but then he has also Susie Wiles. Susie Wiles.
Yeah, she has more power than I think any of us.
She's always at every meeting. which
She
I
has
think is, I
more.
think, very, very, very odd. I mean, because she's at policy meetings, she's White House chief of staff. Why is she attending policy meetings? She's always there, even foreign policy. She's always sitting there in these meetings. She's
I think
absolutely a corporate shill.
she has more power than I think any of us could imagine.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we don't see her very much. We don't hear very much, but we do see her. We see her with Trump a
She's
lot.
there, exactly. That's always what counts, you know.
And what is
Do you attend the meetings? Are you there, you know, when only half a dozen people on Trump's side are in the meeting, and she's there? That, you know, that means you're among the people who matter.
and a chief of staff more times than not is the gatekeeper.
That's what a chief of staff does. That it's as in the title, yeah, is basic. She runs the White House. That's the point. But she's not policy. And but you
Yeah,
know,
but she's
is
involved
elevated.
in foreign policy, man.
Yeah, she's there. Yeah.
Everything, everything. Well, Donald
Ah,
Trump,
yeah.
I don't know, you had a bad day. Okay, I can agree with it, but it seems to me, and George hits upon something, and maybe we can piece it together, but it happened in the beginning of the summer. Something
Exactly.
changed.
Yeah. All right. Something changed. We were caught. And now, what triggered this? I don't know. I mean, with a certain set of events that took place in the early summer, I think the rift with Elon Musk. And we still don't know exactly what happened there. That the break with Musk, and then the sudden shift in policy, particularly when it came to the Middle East.
And Ukraine.
And on Ukraine. So what exactly happened? I mean, I guess we're going to piece together at a later stage, but clearly something very decisive changed at that moment, and now we're living with the
Yeah,
consequences.
because he's not he's not policy leading.
No, no, no.
There's something going on here. He's more of he's transmitting ideas or thoughts. Okay,
Uh,
but if you think that there is a grand plan, that interview tells us
uh, that's right.
there isn't one.
That's right.
All righty. And George and I thought, well, there's not much to talk about today, but we ended up talking quite a bit about that very bizarre interview. This interview is going to be talked about a lot. Okay, it's all over
Yeah, yeah,
Twitter.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, everybody, this is The Goggle with Peter and George. We're on Locals, so please go to thegoggle.locals.com. This is Wednesday. George and I, as always, will reconvene on Friday. I'll see George Sunday morning, and then I'll see him Sunday evening. And then we have our live stream at 10 o'clock Eastern Time on Monday.
Exactly. And then, but before that, there's my live stream tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And then Buddy says, yeah, and there's also my tip jar stream, which is an ongoing issue, which where has to move, the streaming has to be moving in a particular direction. You know, that's the streaming, you know, upstream. He doesn't understand downstream, it's upstream.
Upstream, then downstream into his pocket.
Exactly, into his pocket. So if you have any money, crypto, gold bullion, he likes gold bullion. He can stink his teeth into that. Anything like that, bung it into that tip jar. We're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve on the technology. And above all, we're gonna keep, you know, Buddy, you know, happy, you know, with that gold bullion, and you know, he can play with it like his little bone. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye bye.